Hello, beautiful beings. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. To anyone who's new to this channel is about the difference between traditional non-duality and nonsense, watered down, crazy, delusional non-duality, often called Neo-Advaita. A warm welcome to anyone who's new and welcome back to anyone who's been here before. It's my birthday. The making of this video, it's my birthday. And all day long, I had this plan of I'm going to make this video about how grateful I am to be alive. And I was thinking about it all day long. And then I've reconnected with an old friend who I met at a Neo-Advaita. I don't know whether to call it a cult or a temple, a cultish temple, and reconnected, not in person, but online. And this person is still caught in Neo-Advaita. And it's when did he leave the temple? He left that temple. Yeah. I guess he left. Yeah, it's been almost, 10 years, and he's still just thick in it. And it's just breaking my heart, and it's triggering me. And so it's kind of late in the evening, and I was going to send, I saw he sent a message, and I just wanted to respond to him. And So I'm coming on here. I'm kind of raw. I've processed it a little bit, but I really want to take this as an opportunity to just speak from my heart. And so first of all, just right here, right now, I can experience how demonic Neo-Advaita is. It takes me back to my 20 plus years of being in it. No, it was literally, I think it was 21 years. Just how demonic, confusing, and by demonic, that's not even really the word. A better word is false light. It appears so wise and so true, and yet it just takes you downwards. That's how it's like demons pretending to be angels, and the obsession. This person knows where I'm at, and yet they keep bringing up Neo-Advaita and non-duality. It's they can't not talk about it. And in fact, I think the whole, when I was into Neo-Advaita, it was I was constantly looking for people who I could talk this talk with. It's it's like a secret society, and you're constantly looking for people to reinforce your belief. And it's just that he's just saying crazy things oh, the world appears so real. And so I didn't know this is how bad off he was. I honestly, I wouldn't have reconnected with him. Because it's it's like an active addict, someone who is literally killing themselves with drugs or alcohol or behavioral addiction. It's they're a sinking ship, and worse, they're sinking the ship and they're unwilling and unable to stop sinking the ship. And so it's just like a shit show. It's just insanity. It's insanity that doesn't know it's insane, and worse, it's insanity that thinks it's somehow enlightened or spiritual, which is what Neo-Advaita is. So as a part of me, it's oh, I got to figure out what to do about this situation. But really, I just want to let my heart be broken, because I love this person. I love this person dearly. He's like a brother to me. And it's really painful to see where he's at. And, it's I want to just shake him and just be Shankara said this, Ramana said this, what you're doing is Neo-Advaita, and I'll probably figure out I'll figure out a very gentle, skillful way to say that, but it's like there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. This person is committed. It's like being committed to your illness. And I was committed to my illness. And if someone had come and tried to shake me up, and people did occasionally, I'd be like, fuck you. Like, you're delusional. You're trying to steal enlightenment from me. It's like they were trying to save my life, and I would have been like, bam, So I'm not worried about how he'll react if I, speak truth, and I will speak my truth. But it just takes me back to how fucking lost I was. It's funny. Like I said, my whole intention was to come on here and like celebrate my birthday with you guys and be like, oh, I'm so stoked to be alive. Like, yeah, sometimes it's still really hard. Sometimes, often, but like today I went for a walk and I just like enjoyed the senses, like the sound of the leaves crumpling, and enjoyed the trees and the temperature, like, and it's so synchronistic to get this message. Hi to my live viewer, from this person who is just not only caught in Neo-Advaita, like they're just a sinking ship headed downwards. So welcome to my live viewers. I'm talking about how I've reconnected with an old friend and realized that they are still knee deep in Neo-Advaita, and how heartbreaking it is. And it just triggers the shit out of me, because to go deep into Neo-Advaita is a traumatic experience. Samadhana yoga, thank you. Yeah. So I'm just going to respond a few things he said. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is absolutely nothing, because my senses and mind are constantly deviating from what is real. In other words, I can't place any firm basis around what my senses and my mind are telling me, because I feel like they're changing way too frequently and not really telling me anything meaningful or substantial long enough to make it turn into a reality. Like, it's just classic Neo-Advaita. I asked him, hey, what's real for you? What's going on in your life? And like, it's like any excuse to like preach Neo-Advaita. It's like someone who's caught in the addiction, they'll be like, well, I can't attribute reality to anything. Like, it's just like a program. And I used to do it all the time. It's like I would just walk around like just hoping I could spread some Neo-Advaita to somebody. But first of all, so this is just nonsense. The senses do provide reliable information. He probably has a false definition of real. In traditional Advaita Vedanta, real means temporary. Real means constantly changing. It doesn't mean non-existent. And the mind is considered essential in traditional Advaita Vedanta. You cultivate the mind to learn how to discriminate. And so there's this whole thing. The Neo-Advaita lie is, I got to get rid of the mind. The mind is unreliable. Traditional Advaita, you absolutely need the mind. And in fact, it's a path of strengthening the mind. And it does talk about two levels of mind. But yeah, it's so this whole idea that the mind is unreliable, it's like such a half-truth from the perspective of traditional Advaita. And then it creates a loop, because it's like you need the mind to get out of the mind, but Neo-Advaita is like, well, the mind's not trustworthy, so get rid of the mind. But the mind still thinks. Like, that doesn't stop the mind. It just makes the mind worse. I've experienced it. Most people probably have. Yes, the mind is all there is to me. I teach the mind is what we use with yoga. Yes, total half-truth. Yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad. And what's even worse is it creates a loop that you cannot get out of. I mean, you can, but to get out of the loop, you have to abandon the premise that the mind is worthless. And so but it sure does feel fucking real when they're arising in the screen of your awareness, don't they? Meaning thoughts or things that you see. Like, this is just classic Neo-Advaita bullshit talk. Like, oh, don't these things seem really real? You know, what do I want to say? Well, what this reminds me of is my own hypocrisy. I would walk around being like, enlightenment is the most important thing. Enlightenment is what I care about the most. And then, I'd be like constantly like wanting sex, and that's not bad to want sex, but it's this mind, it's this untruthful mind of like, oh, all I care about is enlightenment. I'm like, I want sex and I want to do this service project and I have this creative project, but all I care about is enlightenment. Like, it creates this total crazy war. And so to be like, all these things seem so real. Like, listen to my voice when I say that. I didn't even try that. All these things seem so real. Like, you have to kind of dissociate, because I used to do stuff like that. And I'd be like, wow. Like, I'm looking at a wall right now. I'd be like, wow, that wall seems real. Like, I don't know quite how to put it into words. It's like really thinking and feeling that the wall is real, and like trying to convince yourself that it isn't, like trying to talk yourself into, and in this case, like trying to talk me into the belief that it's not real. Oh, crazy. So let's see. So it feels like gaslighting to a degree, doesn't it? Like asking a question about it. Yoga almost inferring that you have to agree. Yeah. Well said. Thank you. I don't know if it's gaslighting so much as, but it is like this hook, like, gee, it really seems real, doesn't it? Like there's some hook, like maybe gaslighting, maybe something else, but yeah. So, I didn't come on here I didn't want to come on here to bitch about this message and to bitch about my trigger, about getting so upset by it. I'm still, I have unhealed trauma from it. What I wanted to come on here and do is just be real, and this poor person, and the poor me that did for 20 years. And I realized in 2004, I realized A, Neo-Advaita was different than traditional Advaita, and B, it was harmful for me. It took me 14 years to leave. And so it's like, what can I say to this person? I think that's the thing that's most painful, is like, right here, right now, I don't know what to say or do. Someone, yeah. And it's someone I really care about. So it's my birthday today, and I had a really great day, mostly. And, it's interesting. Ramana Maharshi once said about birthdays, he said, birthdays should not be celebrated, they should be mourned. And I've never heard another traditional Advaita. He wasn't a traditional Advaita teacher, by the way, but that's another topic. But I've never heard a traditional Advaita teacher say it like that. But, I'm much more of the Buddhist persuasion that a human birth is a precious opportunity. But I want to come on here and say, like, I am in for the journey. Like, I am here to do life. And by do life, I don't just mean like pursue pleasure and have fun, but to like I'm on this birthday, and you know what? This message actually helps me. It helps clarify why I want to do this, because I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to that shithole of wondering if the world is real, wondering if I am real, suppressing my desires, cycling in a crazy philosophy that I think is absolute truth. Like, I say yes to life, and I say yes to the ups and downs and the challenges and the learning experiences and the effing triggers, which anyone here with complex PTSD or PTSD knows it's pretty intense. Um, I'm grateful to be alive today. I'm working on a dance piece. I performed privately twice now, and I've performed publicly once, performed dance. And I just today I started working on my second public performance dance piece. Um, as I've shared in my previous videos, I'm able to show up and like help. In my last couple of videos, I'm like showing up to help with a really intense family. It was a crisis. It's out of crisis. Now it's just like a big situation. Like, I had the resources to show up and be a part of my family again when my family needed me. And this is going to sound kind of morbid, but I mean it. Like, let's say I fall off the bandwagon and I go back to Neo-Advaita or go back into addictive behavior, and like that's it for me, like no other progress. Just the fact that I was able to show up, like really show up and support my family, support my mother, the woman who gave birth to me on this day, like in her moment of need, because I stopped this Neo-Advaita non-duality thinking the mind isn't reliable and the senses aren't reliable, and boy, all this, like stopping all of that, and not just stopping it, then the process of recovery and the process of like learning how to live, and I'm still just a kindergartner at that. But if the only thing that came from this recovering from Neo-Advaita was showing up during a crisis and being able to help. Like, my mom was in the hospital for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. And I had the internal strength, and she was struggling. And I had the internal strength and the humanity and the valuing life. That's what I fucking hate about Neo-Advaita the most, is how much it does not value life. Traditional Advaita says life is sacred. And this life process is sacred. Yes, there is some, kind of like negating and some like, but it honors the life process. If nothing else, it honors the sacredness of life. And because of all the work I've done to recover from Neo-Advaita, to exit Neo-Advaita, and then to begin, I'm still just beginning to recover from because there's leaving and then there's rebuilding and healing. If I accomplish nothing else, I'm going to be a little theistic here for a moment, a little like, I'll be like, like after I die, I'll be like, God, like let's pretend the Christians are true, when you show up before God and you're judged, I'll be like, God, I messed up a lot. I fell short a lot. And you're probably going to have a lot to say to me, but the one thing I did, one of the most beautiful things I did in this life was I was able to show up for the woman who gave birth to me. Because I exited this fucking mental cult called Neo-Advaita. And on top of it, I was able to help a few other people take some steps out of it. So this was not the video I intended. Like all day long, I was really excited. I had this vision for this video. So you can tell I'm a little stirred up, and I'm going to go do some more self-care. And I appreciate all of you being witness to this. And prayers for my friend, prayers for everyone still caught in Neo-Advaita and other forms of spiritual bypass. I'm going to take a look at some of your comments. Hamadana. Yeah, Ramana did say a lot of blunt things. Aw, thank you. I don't know if in the replay if you can see Samadhana's comments. Yes, I can relate. Haha, interesting. Ramana did say a lot of blunt things. I've been there too. All good. Thank you for sharing so much with us. You're welcome. Wow. And happy birthday. You know what? I mean, paradoxically, this message, and I'm not putting this person down. I don't want to judge them or say I'm better than them but man, am I grateful to be out of that mental maze. It's just an absolute mental maze. And if nothing else, I made it out of that maze. I showed up for my mama when she needed it. And what I've heard is I've been able to be of a little assistance to some other people to help them out of this maze. There's one of my most rambly videos, but you got to see me raw. I hope that rawness, I was able to express some things that were helpful. I'm very grateful for this channel and the people who show up. And Samadana, it's so funny that your name is Samadana. And if I remember correctly, that's like the balanced, tranquil mind. And it's so ironic because that's the prerequisite to self-inquiry that I didn't, and the traditional Advaita path, that I wasn't taught and my friend wasn't taught. We were just taught the advanced meditative practices, and it took us both down dark, dark alleys. And you know what? I made it out, and he's going to make it out. It took me 18 years. He's got maybe another 7 or 8 years. Hopefully it happens sooner. I wish tranquil minds to everyone. I'm going to go refine my tranquility a little bit. Everyone will make it out sooner or later. That's, Samadana, thank you so much for saying that. So if I have one takeaway from the hell that I've been through all of this, where I've come to is I believe that goodness will prevail. So real quick, in Western theology, modern Western theology, like the last 1,500 years, there's been this idea that goodness will not prevail, that most people are going to end up in hell. It was a creation by the Catholic Church. I don't believe it was Jesus' actual message, and many other people agree with that. But so that's been sort of the predominant theology in the West for 1,500 years. And in the East, it's like considered insane. The idea that goodness would not prevail, that in the end, everything wouldn't be okay, that every soul wouldn't be liberated. Like, it's so, like, it's almost like saying in the East, like in the East to say, oh yeah, every soul will be liberated is like saying water is wet. Like they don't even, like the idea that ultimate reality could be separate from anything forever, like does not compute in Eastern philosophy. And so in Vedic thought anyway, So, but I was raised in Western culture, and while I had intellectually rejected that idea of eternal separation or eternal damnation, I hadn't fully embraced the idea of inevitability, that goodness will prevail. And this whole journey through Neo-Advaita has just taken me to, paradoxically, to just not absolute faith, because that sounds like to a moment of absolute faith. That yes, the goodness will prevail for everyone and everything. And now I'm striving to live by that more and more. So it's so funny that Neo-Advaita would take me to that place, but it didn't take me to that place, but it was part of what led me to that place. So yeah, I'm utterly convinced my friend will make it out of this. I'm utterly convinced all of us will come to a state of reunion or union or communion with the supreme reality, that because the nature of the supreme reality is limitless goodness, that reunion, communion, liberation for all of us is inevitable. And that's another one of the deep gifts that Neo-Advaita has led me to, that place of understanding that understanding that's so built into Vedic thought that they don't even talk about it. Like, you don't go around talking about, like, hey, water is so wet. Have you noticed how wet water is? Like, oh my God, it is so wet, like it's just like a fact. Like in Vedic philosophy, it's just a fact, like water's wet, every soul will be liberated. Like, so that's one of the gifts that that my journey through Neo-Advaita has led me to, is to the understanding. And that's one of the missing pieces. There's so many missing pieces in Neo-Advaita, and that's one of them. Yeah, I could say more, but I'm not in the mood to philosophize. But I just want to thank everyone who watched this video. And Samadana said, yes, I believe it's inevitable. I think that's the ultimate truth, that the ultimate spiritual truth, that everything will be okay. And including my friend, and including this irritation and agitation that I'm in the process of working through. Much gratitude to Samadana Yoga for your input, but also for your name. It's so appropriate for what I was talking about tonight. And I wish everyone a blessed evening. Take care. Big love.